where do you start with Livingston? I mean, I think since they've kind of got promoted, they've just kind of gone from one strength to the next. And I've just kind of, out of sheer coincidence, with the nature of my job, I've found myself watching Livingston quite a lot this season. And at no point have they ever looked like a headless chicken. They've never looked like a team who are just there to make up the numbers. Gary Holt has been exceptionally modest throughout the entire season, as is his staff as a whole, and the players as well. And I just think they're just a really impressive squad. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was Lambie that we did an interview with at the start of the season when it must have been in the League Cup when they maybe played Rangers. They had a game against Rangers maybe, and we were kind of talking to him about the way Livingston play and, you know, how they have this habit of kind of causing upsets. And he was just really cool about it. And he's like, look, we know what we are, and we know if we all focus and we all play to the right tactics, we can upset these teams. And it wasn't a kind of like, it wasn't any kind of bluster or media hyperbole. And he wasn't like fight talk. He was just being very honest. He just said, we have a system that works and everyone's entirely focused on it. Everyone's entirely committed to it. And as we saw against both Rangers and Celtic this season, it works really well. I mean, their points per game this season have gone up from 1.15 to 1.3. Their goals per game have gone up. They're conceding a wee bit more, but not a huge amount. And obviously, they've jumped up 4 places. So you could really argue across the board it's been a really big improvement. And as you kind of mentioned there, Neil, that's all the more remarkable when you consider the kind of players they lost. I mean, just off the top of my head, there's Declan Gallagher and Craig Halkett at the back, who, you know, I've kind of went on the record in this podcast not so long ago just saying how much I think Craig Halkett will go on to be a great player at Hearts or elsewhere. Declan Gallagher's had a superb season, getting the Scotland cap while playing for Motherwell. Dolly Menga as well is also a player they've had to do without this season, and Liam Kelly, who's a fantastic goalkeeper as well. So that's just off the top of my head, and that just kind of shows a real kind of spine in that squad, at least in terms of defensive, was needing replaced, and for the most part they've done that. You know, they've managed to replace him. Guthrie's come in and done a really good job. I think Marvin Bartley might be stealing kind of maybe what James was going to mention in a moment, but I think Marvin Bartley's maybe been one of the best players this season in terms of signings. He's really slotted into that squad really, really well, and he's having a bit of a renaissance in terms of his own season. And I think Lyndon Dykes as well. I know he technically joined January last year, if I'm not mistaken, so you know, he doesn't really count as a new signing this year, but he's gone on from strength to strength as well. And just kind of the manner in which he kind of, that game against Celtic is one that really stands out to me this season as a real kind of focal point for me. The way he really bullied Christopher Julian throughout that match. I think actually I was listening to Julian on Sportsound last week, and I think he actually maybe referenced that Livingston game, and that was the one where he's like, all right, okay, I finally get it. Why? Because he'd been told before he joined Celtic that every team tries to beat them every week, and I think that was the game he realised just how much teams put an effort into stopping Celtic and Rangers. And I thought Dykes was superb. He's been linked to all sorts of clubs, and without disrespect to Livingston, I think that's only fair because of the performances he's put on. But he can only put on his performances, and these players that we mentioned can only slot in so well because there's an overall tactical system at Livingston that works very, very well, and the club are very good at bringing players in and slotting them in quickly and making them feel comfortable in those roles. So unless it's not abundantly obvious now, I'm struggling to come up with a negative to say about Livingston this season.
I know. I mean, I should probably make a quick mistake, rectify something I just said. That I said East Lothian rather than West Lothian, in case we get any angry. I'm just going to say angry phone calls, but hopefully nobody has our number. That'd be pretty worrying. James, is a case of really what Stefan kind of laid out there. I mean, it's quite impressive how they've really rebuilt the spine of a team which was successful last campaign. As Stefan said, they lost Liam Kelly. They brought in Rob McCrory, who's been a good replacement. The likes of Bartley. I mean, how many times in this podcast have we talked about why did Hibs let him go? He's the kind of player they really need. He's really shored up that midfield and come in and managed to fit into the system perfectly. And obviously, you have Dykes, who's been a handful for any defenders he's come up against. Do you think it's a case of they not only have that system in place, but they also buy well?
Yeah, I think the recruitment at Livingston, in my opinion, is probably second to none at the moment. I think they've done some really, really clever work in the transfer market consistently over the last few years. Because I mean, I know we're saying that they've improved year on year, but like we need to remember it's only in 2016 they were relegated to League One. So like to get from there to being the 5th best team in Scotland in the space of 4 years is just incredible. And yeah, a lot of that is down to recruitment. Like Stefan alluded to, there's been a whole bunch of players they've brought in. Even other guys as well. Like I think Ambrose is seen as something of a coup. Like he was great when he was at Hibs. Even in the fullbacks like Aaron Taylor-Sinclair, I've been quite impressed with him. Nicky Devlin, who he's been injured, but I think he is a good player. But I think the most important thing for Livy this season has been the change of system. So they went from predominantly playing a 3-5-2 last season, and now they're more of a sort of 4-2-3-1. And I think that's really helped with getting the most out of the players that they've got. I mean, I did an interview with Stephen Lawless last week, and he was saying that when the spine of that team left in the summer last year, he was concerned that the team might regress a little bit, they might struggle, but the change in formation is something that they've been working on towards the end of last season, and they knew that's what they were going to be doing this season. And in the case of Lawless in particular, that really helped with him because he was mainly filling in as a wing back, and he's been quite adamant that throughout his career he's slotted in at wing back occasionally, but his best position he feels is in the final third. And the stats this season would back that up. He's he's 4th overall in the league for combined goals and assists this season. He's only behind Edward, James Forrest and Ryan Christie. So I mean that's better than Morelos, which is something I pointed out to him and he didn't even realise, which was quite funny. But I think that actually Livy, they've got this reputation maybe for being a bit agricultural, maybe being a bit defensive, and as we've said in the podcast before, it's not really deserved in my opinion. And for instance, if you compare them to Motherwell, who get a lot of plaudits for this attacking style of play and being quite entertaining. In terms of goals scored, they've both Livingston and Motherwell scored 42 goals this season. In terms of goals conceded, Motherwell have conceded 38, Livy have conceded 39. So in terms of the amount of goals for and against, it's almost the exact same as someone like Motherwell. They're actually the 4th top scorers in the league. Hibs are slightly ahead and they've scored one more goal. So I think that actually they're more attacking than they get credit for. Dykes has been sensational for them. Having that target man up front that allows the wide players to play off him has been massive for Livy. I think that's really helped with them really developing this season and pushing on. But I think one of the more interesting things about Livy is the fact that yes, they've changed the formation, but the style of play has remained largely the same. And that they are combative. Like they know exactly what they're doing. They want to draw teams in and hit them on the counter, and it continues to work. And when I was speaking to Stephen Lawless, he was saying that the players this season were targeting Europe as the season went on. He felt, and he said that his teammates felt as well, that had the season been played to a conclusion, they could have caught Aberdeen. And when you look at the league table, it's hard to disagree with that. They're not too far behind, and they've got this great habit of. Because they're such a sort of unique team in the Premiership, they can take points off anyone. I mean, when you look at Celtic have there's only been 4 games when they've dropped points this season, and 2 of them have been against Livingston, which I think sort of tells you that it doesn't matter how good the opposition are, it doesn't matter how many talented players they've got, or how good the coach is, or how attacking they are. If you're going up against Livingston, you just cannot take anything for granted. And for that reason, I think Gary Holt deserves a tremendous amount of credit. And I think he's had a phenomenal season. Livy have had a phenomenal season. It's just, the 4th year in a row now where they've been brilliant and probably exceeded the expectations. And to be honest, there's nothing to suggest that they might not do that again next year. I mean, their rise has been incredible, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens next because they will probably end up losing a couple of players. That's what's happened most seasons. But as they've already shown, they've got a real eye for recruitment as well. And I think that even if they do, for instance, lose a Dykes or maybe a Lawless, they've certainly got the tools at their disposal to bring in other players who can then fill those gaps. And I think with Holt and Martindale in particular, they've got these guys at the club who understand what the club's about, how to get results. And I think as long as they're both there, Livy will continue to thrive.